Welcome to this week's installment of Reading with Robin, your number one destination since 2002 for insightful author interviews and discussions on everything literary. And with no further introduction, your host, Robin Call.
Well, this is a very big day. I am very excited. I have been looking forward to speaking about A Good Neighborhood, Therese Anne Fowler's latest novel, for it seems like a really long time. Whoever has having sense of time, but this has just been like an outer time body experience. Therese is the author of New York Times best-selling novels, The Novel of Zelda Fitzgerald and A Well-Behaved Woman. Everybody loved those books. Wait until you get your hands on A Good Neighborhood. I have been talking about this book, I think, for a year. Welcome to Reading with Robin. Therese.
Hello. Yes, you were one of our very first readers, I think, about a year ago.
I was just telling somebody that I think it was a year ago because my galley is an early galley.
Yeah.
And sometimes I exaggerate for fun or I just have, a delusional sense of memory. But I thought that I was correct on that one. It has been that long. And, right? So that's correct. I got the first point right.
I think it was just a bound manuscript that you got.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, my publisher was sending early copies to people like you, who we know are supporters of my earlier works, and also, what would we say in a really complimentary way, you have big mouth in the literary world.
Oh, yes. Big mouth. I love it. The first time I ever heard
That's
that,
a compliment.
I was like, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This is one of the books that I've most been looking forward to chatting about because I really have been talking about it for a year, and I posted a bit about it. And people will ask the big mouth, what are you reading? And this is on all of these anticipated lists, and people are like, wait, but she wrote Z and A Well-Behaved Woman, and this is with domestic suspense thriller. I never exactly get it in the right genre, but that idea. Contemporary novel, and then I was reading Jodi Picoult's amazing blurb, and she said she read it in a single sitting. Yes, it's that good.
I did.
And I think I did too. I love Jodi, but I remember just it arrived, and I'm pretty sure I just read it, and really couldn't put it down, and it's all coming
and then you
back to
texted me afterward. I remember this. And you were like, oh, my God.
Yes, I did. That's right. Because you're on my phone, so of course I did. That's right. I was so excited to share that because it was that is for a reader, that is the ultimate treat. There's nothing better than getting a book and really just everybody go away, and there's always the idea of like, well, I don't want to finish it too fast, but I got to know. And I always go with I got to know. So
and I'm obviously so pleased that that's the reading experience you had. That's what I was aiming for, obviously.
Well, bullseye, Therese Anne Fowler.
Thank
Visit Therese's site. You're welcome. Her website, thereseannefowler.com. Find her on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You're everywhere. And you will certainly be everywhere. And check out the events on Therese's website so you can go where she is and share this book.
Come meet me.
Come meet her. You've got a great tour going on. We were talking off air about touring. A Well-Behaved Woman is only it came out a year and a half ago because we had the pleasure of your company in Boston and in Newport. So we were together just a year and a half ago. And so this tour, you've got those readers, you'll meet new readers. So talk about what that's like, because it's a little, it wasn't that long ago, and there you are.
About being out on tour, well, I don't know actually how the authors who write a book every year can have a life, because, they write the book and then they go out on tour. I remember when I met Jodi Picoult years ago, she talked about how it takes her about, 6 months to write a book. And then she's on tour for 4 months with that book. And I thought, how do you do anything else in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it, though. I am excited about getting out on book tour. I think I'm going to be in something like 22 cities this time around over the next 60 or 90 days. I don't know. I asked my publicist to just put it in one big document for me, and then I get on the plane and I show up wherever they tell me to go. And
Good plan.
It's really lovely, though,
Yes.
to meet people who are enthusiastic readers and have thoughtful things to say about books. No, it's wonderful.
Well, that is the treat, and I think that because the other books didn't come out like that, like this is a very different experience, and then you get to meet readers who know your work and are excited to see you, and then new readers and readers of the genre, So I'm excited to follow and see where should we most follow you, like what will you be most keeping up with? Because, of course, it's not a tour if we can't see where you've been. And it's like the Pie Ladies made a pie about your book and all of these things.
That would be fun. Probably Instagram, and I think I have it set up so I cross-post to my personal Facebook, but not to my author Facebook page. So Instagram is the sure thing.
So you've got, so go find Therese on Instagram. Do you follow the Pie Lady, the Pie Book Lady? I forget.
No.
Oh, check her out.
I'm missing out.
Must have been like, why is Robin talking about a pie?
I don't know. I thought you were just imagining that people come out with pies, which is a possible thing.
Well, it's a good neighborhood, and that's a very neighborly thing to do, is bring a pie. Right. So if people are not in touch with her, I'm sure she's up on your book. She gets all the really awesome ones and interprets the cover of the book on a pie. And
are you kidding?
Her. Oh, no, you must go.
Yeah, well, now, Robin, if I don't meet her, I'm going to be crushed. Right?
I'm so sorry. Oh, my God, I'm setting these expectations. I will send her a message and make sure she's making a pie. If not, I'll make you a pie.
Okay. I'm happy now.
Mine will be like the collapsed pie in celebration of a good neighborhood. That would be the kind of pie. I mean, pie, but yes, she does it beautiful with ganache and check out Kylie Reed's such fun age. I mean, they're beautiful. They're really beautiful. I think she's out of Colorado.
Great thing.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the tip. You're gonna travel along with, knowing that there will hopefully be a pie on her Instagram. I'm sure I will absolutely send her a message.
Okay.
And encourage the pies. So talk about, and especially this book, in a lot of ways, storytelling is activism. I was reading about that. So I'd love to talk about that a bit, and also books not out, well, it will be out when people are listening, just out. You've had pre-readers and people who are just chirping about this book, but we don't give away anything on Reading with Robin ever. We won't ruin anything. I'm remembering what I'm not allowed to ruin. So talk about the book, what you want the readers to know, what we can share, set it up, and then I'd love to talk about.
Well, yeah, so
sure.
We will talk about, what is this book about, right? That's the first thing that people probably want to know. And as you said, it's a contemporary suburban drama, so not historical. And it's a story about the conflict that arises between these two neighboring families, one black family, one white family. And initially, the conflict is over the fate of this damaged historic oak tree in the black family's backyard. But it's complicated by the developing romance between the two families' teenagers. And both of those situations lead to consequences that none of them could have foreseen. So that's what I'm doing with the story.
Yes.
Right?
Well, that tree is just, and I know there's significance too. I just remember, and as you're talking, it's bringing it back, but the star-crossed lovers. I mean, who doesn't want to, soak into that idea and just all of the parts of the neighborhood and what we know about people and the expectations for living together and, trust and trickery and all of these, just setting something in a space like that in the suburbia and the undertones is fraught, and so it was the setting right there had me, and then all of the other, developing the characters and getting to know the backstories. It's just, such a treat. So,
well, thank you.
Start with the roots, I guess, of the story with this tree and why, what that signifies, and your connection to it.
Right. So you said a minute ago about the book as an act of activism. And so where that began for me was with an oak tree in my own backyard, actually, and my anxiety over this tree because a house had been constructed next door, new house in the spot of the existing old house that had been torn down. Mm-hmm. And the construction had damaged the roots of my own oak tree. And so there I was in my house fretting about this tree. And that was the start. But concurrent to that was a different kind of anxiety that I think so many people have been feeling in the last, 5 years, we'll call it, over what seems like this backsliding in terms of things like rights for women, equal rights, environmental protections. Always in the news there are these stories about white supremacy and racist acts, and I was just sort of feeling buried by all of this bad news, and I had to do something about that. It's interesting. I've thought about this a lot, obviously, since I wrote the book, but back in the late 1960s when Toni Morrison was working as an editor at Random House, she had some anxiety about, of course, all of the civil rights activism that was happening that she did not feel like she was able to be a part of. She was a single mom. She was raising 2 little boys, by herself, working full time. And she said, all right, what can I do where I am? And so that's what A Good Neighborhood turned out to be for me. This was something I could do where I was. I have a little bit of a platform, we might say. That meant I could tell a story and maybe get people thinking harder about these kinds of things in ways
that conversation going,
Yes, exactly. Can we talk about this stuff? How can we fix it? And that's sort of where the book was born.
I think that's, to me, I always am fascinated by that spark, that nugget, what's sort of moving around in there, and especially because the first 2 novels being historical fiction, and then this is so different and so fabulous and just so bright for now and everything about it. And so obviously I shouldn't have to say this, people, but book club pick, oh my God, pick this book.
There's plenty to talk about.
I mean, right? It is ever. I can only imagine, and a lot of book clubs, they're not all, but many are in neighborhoods. So, maybe you can work out some stuff in your book club, and where's that tree or that fence or that, just all of the things that happen, and what is a good neighbor, and how do we watch out for each other, and what becomes a deal breaker, and
trying to be aware of and understanding of the things that make us alike more. Well, also the things that divide us, but and sort of also things to watch out for, things that you might not recognize are happening below the surface with some of your neighbors. I hope not like some of the people in this novel, but who knows?
But you don't know. Well, that's why when stories happen, people say, I don't know, they were quiet. It was a nice neighborhood. I didn't see this coming, or, right? I mean, how many times do we see that when the neighbors are interviewed about something? And again, no spoilers, and we're talking about A Good Neighborhood. It's Therese Anne Fowler's brand new novel. It's just out, and you can find out more information on her website at thereseannefowler.com, and you'll be seeing this everywhere. It's one of the most anticipated books on everyone's list, and I'm very excited that it's been on mine for a year. No competition with that, of course. It's like, you guys, wait till you read this book. You're going to be so excited, and it's out, and it feels like a year because, as Therese and I talked about, it has been. And when a book can stay with me for that long, and, just thinking about it a little before we're getting on to chat, but the characters were so there, and I was just so connected and deeply moved by this book in so many ways. And that's the mark of it. Look at how many books we read. So that's really...
It pleases me so much that you feel this way, given the number of books that you read, and that's quite a compliment, and I appreciate that.
Well, and I'm happy to share it, and I know when you were here last year and a half ago, when you were in with us at the 2 events, it was such a different kind of event, but same. It's like those readers. People are so excited to see you. Everybody's so deeply connected to those books, previous books. So I'm excited to hear what readers are saying.
Yeah, I think we talk about how different my historical novels are from this, but one of the through lines in those books and in A Good Neighborhood actually has a lot to do with how I'm interested in writing about these fascinating, flawed women, strong women who have unexpected situations that they have to deal with in their lives. And so that's actually, maybe that's my thing. Maybe that's what I do in my books.
Well, because your readers will know, they'll go, yes, this rings true. It's not, it's different genre, but it's not so different, because really that's the essence. Right. And that's where your authenticity as a writer is. That's why the attraction, that's the meat of the story. And so you'd recognize that. So, yeah. And funny, because I'm later to the genre of domestic suspense, thriller, that kind of genre. That's newer for me. So I'm especially soaking that up. And I I've been connecting to that. It's just something that I hadn't read as much of years ago, and so it's been a more recent passion. So now when I get my hands on it, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you guys all know there are these kinds of books?
Right. And they said, yes, we've been reading them for 50 years, Robin.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I used to read legal thrillers and what? I don't know. I still don't read very much domestic suspense. This novel is certainly a kind of suspenseful story. It's a character-driven, suspenseful novel. Some people, I occasionally go and look at my Goodreads reviews. So be nice, folks, when you write about authors' books, because we do care what we
read. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah. People who read suspense, like that's their genre, might think that the character development is slower than what they're accustomed to, in books like this. But I will tell you, almost to a person, that people say once they got into the story just a little bit, they read like obsessively. And,
well, that's good. So that's what you're reading. So, right. Remember, there are authors behind those good reviews, people. I do, and I encourage. Like, I really don't do many of them. I do, show people and go to the reading. Oh, and also there's a giveaway at Reading with Robin on Facebook, and find me on Instagram at Robin Cole Inc. There'll be a giveaway as well. I do them occasionally. It's not really my thing if I'm really asked, and sometimes I do. But like the show in general, and I've been asked, do you really just like everything? And of course I share that I share what I love, and that's the same in a review. I wouldn't, I don't like when people take an opportunity to take a swipe. I just don't like that. So, if you love something, please put up a review. That's what I ask, and I think it's really a kind thing to do. The author has written the book for you, for goodness sakes. The least you could do is take a few minutes to go to Amazon, go to Goodreads, and leave a lovely review. And that's,
we appreciate it. We sure do.
Yeah, and you people need to remember there's somebody behind that. I mean, that gets to be a whole other thing. But I do share that, and I like to remind people. And a lot of times, readers are happy to be able to share in a way that's helpful, and that's a really kind thing to do. But I am so about characters, so I really got into all of these characters. So that's something that really speaks to me. So let's talk about some of them. Talk about who you created or how they sort of came together in your mind.
One thing that's probably worth mentioning right at the front of talking about who tells the story and whose story it is that the point of view is a little bit unusual. So you read it a while ago, and maybe you don't remember a lot about this, but the narrator of the book is actually the neighborhood itself.
Yes, that's so cool. I love that. I do recall.
Right, and
I recall that.
Yes. A lot of people don't have much experience with this point of view because it's not done very often, and it's kind of tricky to do. But I felt like it was the right choice for this book because, so when we have points of view in a book, we have first person, right, where the character or characters themselves tell you the story, and then there's third person where you have this sort of author voice with the point of view of this character or that character telling you the story. And in this case, I wanted something that was kind of both of those things. It needed to not just be one person telling the story, but I didn't want it to be just kind of this anonymous author voice either, because there's an intimacy and a kind of classic sense of storytelling that this collective first person point of view gets to that the other points of view don't. So like way back when storytelling was brand new and there wasn't even any writing, this would be the way people would learn stories. You know, they'd gather together and they'd have someone telling a story to them as a group. And that story would usually be some kind of cautionary tale. And I thought, well, here I am writing what I know is going to turn out to be a cautionary tale. What better voice for the book than the neighborhood itself to narrate? So then we have
so cool. I love how that all came together for you.
I'm just so glad it worked, actually, because I haven't done it before.
Right?
Yeah. But then what the narrative voice kind of fades into the background as we get more acquainted with each of the characters, and then comes back into the story to kind of tell you, the reader, some things as you go. So we have 5 characters who we get really well acquainted with. I mentioned earlier that there's a black family and a white family, and they share a property line. Their backyards are connected. So Valerie Alston Holt is a professor of forestry and ecology at the local university, and she is an African-American woman. She has a teenage son named Xavier, and it's just the two of them because she's widowed. Then on the other side of the property line are the Whitmans, and that's Julia Whitman, who marries, we say she married up, right?
She married up. Yes, okay, she married up, yes.
She married up. She was a single mom with a daughter named Juniper, and then eventually she meets and marries this fellow named Brad Whitman and has a daughter with him, and that daughter's name is Lily. So there's a pretty big age spread between Juniper and Lily. They're about 10 years apart. And so that's our cast of characters, the teenagers, Xavier and Juniper, the moms, Julia and Valerie, and then Juniper's stepfather, which is Julia's husband, Brad.
And Brad, what a character he is. So, talk about, right?
Brad,
like writing this character.
We won't say a whole lot about.
We won't say a whole lot about Brad.
But we will say that Brad is inspired very much by a lot of the men we see in our lives around us right now. A lot of men who are getting a lot of attention from the media for reasons that we would say are not so favorable. But, Brad is actually, on the surface at least, a really great do-gooder kind of guy. He's very friendly. He's very outgoing. He's socially responsible. He's an entrepreneur. He has an HVAC company and is all about good customer service and just kind of that Southern guy who everybody loves, who gets along with everybody, kind of backslapping good old boy type who made good, and now he has this beautiful family, and they've just built this beautiful house, and everything seems to be wonderful.
Except for that tree.
Except for Valerie's tree.
Except for Valerie's tree. And we could say, too, and that was a really lovely portrait of Brad, and there's just all these underlying things about people, whether it's neighborhood or just people that we come in contact with and what we're shown and what we assume. And so there's so much that's fascinating about the character studies in this book. And I'm speaking with Therese Anne Fowler about her brand new book. It's going to be everywhere. It is everywhere. It's a good neighborhood. It's fabulous. I loved it. Don't miss it. It's just, I can't wait to talk about it with the readers. Like, that's what I'm excited about, too, once it's out and people are, more people are talking about it because it's really out. There's like pre-out, there's pre-out, and then there it is.
And it's actually in the world, right?
Right? It's now it's actually really here. Yeah.
Or I feel like it's been out for this whole year because you've been reading it, and I think we have well over 1,000 Goodreads reviews already.
That's amazing.
And so, it just sort of feels like everyone already knows about this book, and yet, of course, that's not the case.
There are so many people that get to read it. So I always get sort of jealous in that way. Like, you have so much to look forward to. In fact, I'm taping this. I'm out of town and with family, and I'm leaving it for very lucky person in my life. I'm like, but I want it back because the original one I read, I like to keep the original one with all the coffee stains and notes.
I do the same thing. I keep all the galleys and art that I get. Yeah.
I used to keep the finished copies, which are lovely and pristine and all that, but like my daughter started doing, she's always done that. And I was like, yeah, but those are the ones they sent. And then I realized, those are the ones I move into. Those are the ones I love. Mm-hmm. And spine's all cracked and really is a lot of coffee and it's probably some chocolate. But I read it in one day, one afternoon, so it's probably just mostly coffee. That's what it looks like. We'll go with that. It might be a few other things.
Drink coffee while you're reading it so you can finish it in one day, and then you probably need a chaser after you're done.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I know. That is the part about talking with readers and having a book club discussion afterwards, because, and I know some book clubs still won't do spoilers. It's just hilarious because you're supposed to read the book, and if you don't want to read the book, that's fine. Go to book club, and I know it's a community, and I love that. But there are people that are like, wait, look, we gave you a month or whatever it is, and we want to, that you have to talk about it. I mean, that's
of course, that's what book club is for.
I know, but have you ever been to a book club where they don't want to discuss the end of your book? Have you ever witnessed that? Because it can be brutal.
Don't think so. No.
Keep me posted
that would just
if it happens.
That wouldn't work for this book. I'm just going to tell folks who are listening, you only need a day or two to read the book. It's a quick enough read.
You won't put it
down.
Go
to your book club
that's it.
And make sure that you've finished it, because this is a story actually where everything that's important about the book culminates really in the last 20 pages.
Which we can't discuss. So you're going to want to pick it up.
Discuss.
Don't you want it, right? I mean, that is, you want to read this book, and we have copies that we're giving away. So head over to Reading with Robin on Facebook and Robin Call Inc. on Instagram. I couldn't get it the other way. That's just what it is, Robin Call Inc. And the connection I wanted to talk about between Xavier, I loved this character. I just loved him.
He's a doll.
He is just one of those kinds of, like, you just drew him out where he just felt so familiar, and this connection with his mother. What was it like writing that? I mean, like a mother-son.
She has so much anxiety over the fact that he's her only child, and he's going to be leaving for college in the fall. And what is her life going to be like without him? Because it's really been just the two of them for the most part for 17 years since his father died. And so just imagining that feeling. My kids are grown up now, but I have two sons, and I was so close to both of them, still am close to both of them, and so I could really mine that anxiety in order to get into what Valerie must have been feeling in that summer that I write about. It's hard, I'll tell you what. It feels
heartfelt. I mean, it's palpable.
That's good.
Yeah,
we want, and Julia too, actually, because Juniper is a rising senior, and she's got a lot of anxiety too. And this is one of the things that the two women have in common, actually, is that they both are protective about their kids. They really don't want to let them go, but they know that they have to.
That's one of the that's where it becomes bittersweet, and talk about the kids and their relationship, and sort of not really, I guess we don't want to talk too much about it, but where they come together and how they make something work.
We know that there is going to be a developing romance. I've already revealed that. So Xavier is just graduating from high school. He's a year older than Juniper, and they meet right there in the first pages of the book when she is sitting outside at the pool in the backyard of this big, some people say McMansion, that her parents had just had built. And I should note that Valerie and Xavier live in a really modest, like 50s era brick ranch house that are so common in North Carolina where this book is set. And Valerie, being a forestry and ecology professor, is all about maintaining the flora of this yard. So they have not just this historic oak tree, but this tremendous yard full of every kind of beautiful tree that you can grow here in the South. And by contrast, Juniper's family, the builder just clear-cut the lot entirely when they removed the old house that was there and built this
heartbreaking.
super big house and a pool. And basically every inch that could be covered just about is covered by some kind of structure or landscaping. So here's Juniper, and she's next to the pool, and here's Xavier working in the backyard. And it's just a moment where he sees her, and he doesn't know a thing about her really, just that she's, pretty. And, when you're a teenager, that's enough to get started, right?
More than enough. There you are.
Initial
right.
visual attraction, and they have a short encounter. And then, as it says, not too many pages later, after the two families meet for the first time, that if Xavier and Juniper had just been able to say hello to each other that day, and then that would have been it, everything else would have gone much differently, to say the least.
And as we would say, then where would the story be?
There would be no story. Exactly.
Right. Sometimes I'll do that in a movie or a book, and I'll always be told, well, then where would the story be, right? If it had gone this way or that way. And so what are some of, as discussion and as activism and really getting conversation going, what are some of your hopes for this book that people will talk about and the topics that will come from it?
People are going to respond to, I think, different aspects of the story depending on what their personal experiences are and what what we would call sort of pet issues are.
Sure.
But I would love for this story to just get people talking about how we hold prejudice, not just personally, but like the broader world that we live in. I thought when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s that civil rights had taken care of, problems of racism, and I thought equal rights had taken care of problems of sexism, and I thought environmental protections had taken care of the environment. And it turns out that not so much, right? That these are still problems that every one of us, we deal with in some way, but in some cases we participate in the problems without necessarily realizing that we're doing it. And so if I could do one thing, I guess it'd just be to get people to sort of become more self-aware about how they think, what they think, and how their behaviors influence these things at the ground level, in their own lives, in their neighbors' lives, in their communities. And maybe we can do better.
And shine light on that and awareness. Yeah, I love that. And after all, I mean, that's the beauty of reading and being able to put that, to have those conversations and to have an awareness and to just, then there's also the, just digging deep into a book and just having that treat of an experience for yourself, but then where it goes from there. And that's what connects us. I mean, that's really at its essence. So I think this book, A Good Neighborhood, does all of that, and it's out now, and you guys are so lucky. Before I let you go, a book or two that you're looking forward to or just read, or, all of our author friends are sharing books, so we want to know what you would like to highlight.
I would like to, so two books that one of which I read just recently finished, and one that I read a little earlier, but that has really stuck with me. Both of these books are either coming out now or are already out. So there's a book called Remembrance. That's an easy title, Remembrance, by Rita Wood.
Remembrance it. Yes, I'm writing it down because I don't know.
It's her debut novel. She is, I'm not going to be able to tell you how old Rita is, but she's not a youngster. She didn't just start out, fresh out of college getting a book published. She's been working at it for a while. She's an African-American author. The novel is this really wonderfully evocative story about different generations of women, and it has some sort of slightly fantastical elements to it.
Ooh.
It's set in the Deep South. It's really, really interesting and well done, and I think she's getting some good attention for it, but it's not maybe a book that most of your listeners will have heard of, so I encourage
I'm so glad that you
So let's
shine a light on that. I see that. Okay, it came out just last month. Okay.
Right. And
just ordered it.
A book coming in April. Good job, Robin.
Yeah, no, I'm on Amazon. Like, click. All right, it's on its way.
The Prettiest Star by a fellow named Carter Sickles, Sickels, and that's an April release. And that's a story about a young man. This is in the 1980s, and he's gay, and he leaves his home in Appalachia and goes to live in New York City, and then contracts HIV, and is coming back home to deal with his illness and his family and his community, and it's a really, really beautifully done story.
The Prettiest Star by Carter
Sickles.
I love that. It's Sickles. Yes, Carter Sickles. It comes out April 14th, and I thank you for sharing those. And that's the thing, too. Like, there are so many books we know we're going to hear about, and we want to hear about them, and I love hearing about ones that I might not necessarily get a heads up on. So thank you very much. Remember,
sure thing.
And The Prettiest Star. And this was so much fun to chat, and I am really excited to talk more. You're my pleasure, and we'll talk about the Reading with Robin Book Club pick and how we can figure that out. And I really want to hear from readers and see what the questions are like and where the conversation goes. And I'm very excited to watch. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. That's, again, we've been talking about it, reading it, and it's been a while since I read it, and then now comes this next layer of hearing from more readers. But I'm thrilled to hear that there are so many Goodreads reviews up. So head over to Goodreads and Amazon and leave your wonderful reviews for the books that you treasure and you want to share those with other readers. And so much fun having you on, and I look forward to seeing you sooner than not.
I appreciate it so much.
Oh, such a treat. And I'm thrilled that A Good Neighborhood is out in your neighborhood. Yay. Speak to you soon.
Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's installment of the Reading with Robin podcast. As always, our full-length podcasts will be available right here on robincall.com. We appreciate your support and look forward to having you over next week when we chat with our next featured guest. Have a great week and happy reading.